Man, this is a blast from the past. This is an 8mm film camera from the 1950s, like when I was born. You know, God can give you dreams that take you back to your past too. Ever dream you were back in your childhood home? Whew, maybe you dreamed you were standing in your old living room, but why there? Why not, say, in your kitchen? Ugh. Is that teal? Well, what do you do in the kitchen? You make things. You make things for people to consume. So that's important to understand the symbolism. Living rooms have to do with your everyday life or your lifestyle. Think of all the symbolism and the practical application of that symbolism in the dreams that God gives you. You can apply the same principles to vehicles in your dreams as well. Let's say you had a dream. You're in a really nice car. I mean, a really nice car. Cars can represent what you're doing in life, at your job, at church, and cars carry people. So there's a certain amount of influence in a car that's carrying people. But then in your dream, your fine car turns into a scooter. Scooters don't carry very many people, and they certainly don't go very fast. You might want to pray and ask if something is hindering your destiny. A man named Andy sent us a similar dream.
I dreamed I was pulled over by a 7-year-old policeman. I was on my knees on the side of the road and he was talking to me. My mouth was open, and he placed his hand under my chin, closed my mouth gently, and said, "You better tighten it up, boy." Then I woke up.
So Andy, in this particular dream, you're the one that's the focus of the dream. So if you're diagramming this out, as I do in the dream journal, then you'd be right in the middle of the dream itself. So you're the focus. Now, sub-focuses in the dream, there's really 3 of them in this particular dream, which is fairly normal. And one of those sub-focuses is the 7-year-old policeman that's there. Another sub-focus is you on your knees on the side of the road with your mouth open. And the other sub-focus is the policeman with his hand under your chin, kind of lifting your chin up or closing your mouth. And then he says something to you, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The idea, though, is this. What is the 7-year-old policeman? Because that's probably the one that's got you stumped the most. The 7-year-old policeman, policeman represents authority. 7-year-old in this dream is not referring to the age of the policeman. It's referring to how long he's been working with you on a particular issue. We'll find out that issue in just a second. But he's been working with you for 7 years on a particular issue. This authority, this policeman, this authority, is basically what God has been working on, the authority of the Lord working in your life. So you're on your knees, which is a place of humility, very good, by the way, but your mouth is open. In other words, he wants to, and he closes your mouth. So in other words, what he's working on what you say. So he puts his hand on your chin to kind of close your mouth, and then he says something to you about basically, be careful what comes out of your mouth. In other words, tighten things up. And what the Lord is really saying to this is he's wanting you to work on the discipline of what you allow to come out of your mouth. All of us have things that God's working with us on. I mean, there's no end to that. I mean, he's perfect, we're not, so he's always going to be working with us on various issues. This is one he's really working with you on. Usually, the reason why God works with us on an issue like what we speak or what we say is because what we speak or what we say is meant to carry influence. And with that influence, then we have a responsibility to speak what God speaks, no more, no less. So on one hand, God is saying, I've got a lot for you to say. On the other hand, I can't give it to you until you work on this issue of working on the discipline of allowing what you say to be tightened up. So tighten it up. Andy, God's got a great future for you because he has already given you an indication that what you say is going to carry influence. Pat from Dallas sent us a dream about a car as well, and an old boyfriend.
I had a dream that I was riding in a car with an old boyfriend. He was driving and we were traveling down the service road. I looked out his window at the up ramp, and I also saw a passenger plane up the down ramp. The wings were beginning to pull back, and in the next scene, I'm still in the car and giving this old boyfriend a kiss.
Pat is the focus in this particular dream. And again, we look for the number of sub-focuses because they're the key to help understand. So if you can get the sub-focuses, all the details typically work themselves out. Then there's some important details in this particular dream, but we've got to get the focus right and we've got to get the sub-focus right. So we have Pat here, and she would be the focus in the dream. We also have 3 sub-focuses in this particular dream. One sub-focus is the boyfriend. One sub-focus is the plane going up the down ramp. Another sub-focus then is also the issue of the service road that her and her boyfriend are driving on. So you have the boyfriend, you have the airplane going the wrong direction on the ramp, you have the service road that they're driving on. The rest of the details, there are some important details, but we're going to get these first things settled and then we'll deal with what important details might do in a particular dream. And this one, it basically says this. In Pat, as you're going along in life, you're traveling with someone that is old and familiar to you, a boyfriend. I don't know whether you're single, I don't know whether you're married, because it's not unusual to have things like this come up even though you're a married person, because it represents an old way of life. And driving on the service road, which is another one of the sub-focuses, represents not driving on the main road. It's almost like, yes, you're making progress on the service road, but you're not going to make the progress in the rate of speed or as quickly on the service road as you would on the main highway. So in other words, you're kind of taking a route that is going to take longer for you to get to where God's called you to go. You're passing an airplane going up the down ramp, which basically says that there are circumstances around you that, one, keep you from getting onto the highway, and those circumstances have been orchestrated and you don't have a control over that issue. You may have to go to the next entrance ramp in order to get that, except this was a down ramp. Now, another interesting issue about this is that the plane's wings were being pulled back. In other words, instead of being able to take off, when an airplane's wings are pulled back, it actually reduces its ability to fly. So the Lord is letting you know, as you're on this service road, the circumstances, you're allowing some of the circumstances in your life keep you from taking off and what God's called you to do. Now, the final thing in this is that as you're traveling on the service road and you see the airplane, you actually kiss your boyfriend, which basically says you're getting really familiar with an old way. And the Lord actually gave you this dream it's a warning dream. It's one of the 20 categories of dreams that we have. Lots of warning dreams. It's not unusual for all of us to have warning dreams. Again, we're all in a place where God is developing us. But He's warning you, don't get too comfortable with this old way of life. It really doesn't stand for an old boyfriend. It stands for an old way of life. Things that maybe you used to settle for, but you quit settling for. But now you're returning back to, well, I'm settling for this again. God's letting you know what He's called you to do is at a higher level, and that He doesn't want you sidelined on a service road. He wants you to do everything that He's been able to gift you to do so you can accomplish the purpose for which you were created. Now, to all of you that are watching that are not Pat, just remember, every single one of us have issues that God is dealing with. Every single one of us, we're going to deal with one thing one day, and we're going to deal with another thing the next week, maybe the next afternoon. All of these things are basically says this: God loves you too much to leave you where you are. So He gives you a dream that says, hey, let's get off the service road, in Pat's case, and get onto the highway and stop allowing the circumstances in our life to dictate what we're going to do. And in a way, bring about a contentment that allows us to embrace an old way of life. God uses pictures to speak to us. He could be telling you it's time to dust off that old talent or ability from your childhood and to start using it again. I'm John Paul Jackson. Thank you for watching another episode of Dreamipedia.
Thank you for choosing Chick-fil-A. This is Carolyn. How may I serve you today?
Yeah, I'm looking for a number 4 with a big old vanilla shake.